This is lesson 14, activity 2, cutting parallel lines with a transversal. So these two lines are parallel, and then when you draw a line that cuts across both of them, that crosses both of them, that line is called a transversal. So to go across something means to transverse something, so the line is called a transversal. And in this first image, what you're supposed to do is figure out the size of the angles with the question mark. What is the size of all of these angles? I'm going to use what we learned last lesson about vertical angles, and all vertical angles are identical or equal. And so if you start out with the 63-degree angle right here, you can imagine rotating this around, and this forms a vertical angle on the other side. And if you notice, if you go through this intersection, this angle down here is equal to 63 degrees. It rotates around 180 degrees, congruent angles, and they're congruent because it's a rigid transformation. You're not changing the size of the angle at all. All you're doing is rotating it. So it remains the same size, and it fits right here. So it is a 63-degree angle. Those are vertical angles, congruent. Now what we can do is, again, use that idea of a rigid transformation and move this image up here. So we're just going to do a translation, slide it up here. It's going to fit right into this spot here. So that means that both of these angles then are going to be 63 degrees. So slide it up. And both of these angles now are 63 degrees. So that makes it pretty easy. You can find the vertical angle is the same, and then slide it up, and these two angles are the same. That means the remaining four angles are all equal. These are vertical angles. Then you slide these two angles down here, and they will also be equal. So whatever they are, well, use the idea of a supplementary angle. These two angles fall on this straight line right here. So this side together with this side forms a straight line. So it's a half circle. So you go halfway around a circle. That's 180 degrees. So this angle is 180 degrees. So these two have to add to 180 degrees. They are supplementary angles. So all these words are coming back to you now. And this is 117 degrees. So 117 plus 63 equals 180. This is a vertical angle here. So if I rotate this blue section around to here, it's going to land right here. It's a vertical angle. It's also going to equal 117 degrees. So now I can take that part of the figure, that's an image that I can translate down to here. And these two angles now are also going to be 117 degrees. And you can get that without even doing that. You realize this is 63 degrees plus this angle has to add to 180. So this angle also has to be 117 degrees. These are vertical angles. They both have to equal 117 degrees. So if you look, this image is identical to this image. They are congruent. They are equal. They will always be when you have parallel lines and a transversal. So if you draw a circle, all four angles are always going to equal the same size as the four angles up here, and vice versa. 63 plus 117 degrees equals 180 degrees. Those are called supplementary angles, meaning two angles that add to 180 degrees. And also you have vertical angles if you look through the intersection. So I always ask my students to draw a line from one side of the intersection through the intersection to the other side, and you'll see that those two angles are equal or identical. If you do it the other way, you'll see that these two angles are equal, identical, and they are called vertical angles. So they're equal through the intersection. All right, so now they give you another figure and they ask you to figure out the size of these angles that have the question mark. Measure four angles at point B in the second diagram. So the four angles at point B. Well, right away you know that these are parallel. This is a transversal, so it means that these angles up here are equal to these angles down here. So it begins to now just kind of fall out. You begin to be able to see it. But, well, let's go through it this way. It's okay. I thought I did it a different way. If you rotate 34 degrees, 180 degrees around this way, say vertical angle, so this angle is going to equal 34 degrees. It's a rigid transformation, so the angle is not changing size, you're just rotating at 180 degrees. Rotate it around, so this angle also has to equal 34 degrees. Well, that means that this angle right here has to equal 146 degrees because it is supplementary with 34 degrees. These two angles have to add to 180 degrees. If this is 34 degrees, then this angle has to be 146 degrees. Supplementary e to 34 degrees. Oh, this is angle E right here. So this is 146 degrees. So it's supplementary to 34 degrees. All right, vertical angles, 180 degree rotation, rigid transformation, congruent, equal. We just did that. All right, this angle is supplementary to 34 degrees. So here's a 34 degree angle, forms a straight line with that 34 degree angle, so this has to add to 180 degrees. It's also a vertical angle, so it has to equal 146 degrees. Supplementary to 34 degrees, vertical angle of 146 degrees, 180 degree rotation of 146 degrees. So all these different ways to come up with the same idea that this angle right here is 146 degrees. So now what you can do is just take this whole image and rotate it down here. There are other ways to do this, and we'll get into that. But anyway, I'm just going to take it, translate image, so E maps to B. So translate the whole image down, move it down there, it lands right on top, and its congruent image angles are equal. So that means that all of these 4 angles are equal to these 4 angles. So it's 146, 146, 34 degrees, and 34 degrees. Now they give you, in the next image, they give you 2 lines that are not parallel. This is just going to show you that these angles are not the same. So the angles in this circle are a different size than the angles in this circle. So if you start out with the 108 degrees, the size of this angle has to add to 180 degrees. That means that this angle right here has to be how much? Well, 108 plus 70 gets you to 178 degrees. You add 2 more degrees, and you get 72 degrees. First of all, this is a vertical angle, so it's 108 degrees across the intersection. And then it's supplementary with 108 degrees. So this angle right here, the blue angle, has to equal 72 degrees. It's also a vertical angle here, so this angle has to equal 72 degrees. So you start to get this image in your head of vertical angles. So there's always 2 vertical angles when you have an intersection. So the 2 across from each other are equal, and the 2 across each other from in the other direction are always equal. 2 angles add to 180 degrees. So 72 degrees across the intersection, vertical to 72 degrees. And it's also supplementary with 108 degrees. So it has to equal 72 degrees. Here's the straight line once again. And it's the red angle plus the blue angle. So this side plus this side form a straight line. That straight line is always 180 degrees because it's halfway around a circle. Halfway around a circle is 180 degrees. Now if I slid this down here, which I did, I just took the X here and I put it down here, and you see that this is a different size angle because these lines are not parallel. So this is 63 degrees. It's a little bit less than 72 degrees. So this is the 72 degree angle up here. The pink comes from above, and this is 63 degrees right here. So they are not equal. But you can still figure out the size. You see that this size is going to be 63 degrees, and this is going to be supplementary to 63 degrees. You're going to add to 180 degrees. So compare 72 degrees to 63 degrees. 63 degrees is a little bit less. So this is 63 degrees, not 72 degrees. These are in the same relative position, but they're not equal because these two lines are not parallel. So what adds to 63 degrees to get you to 180 degrees? The answer is 117 degrees. It's not 108 degrees. That's the angle up here. So this angle is a little bit smaller. This is 108 degrees. This angle is a little bit larger. Notice this is a little bit larger than this angle, and this angle right here is a little bit smaller than this angle because they both have to add to 180 degrees. So 117 degrees compared to 108. So this is a vertical angle right here. So this is 117 degrees, not 108 degrees. So lines that are not parallel, angles will have different sizes. Lines that are not parallel, angles have different sizes. So this is lesson 14, activity 2. Cutting parallel lines with a transversal.